Hi everybody and welcome to Murphy's Maths. This is Real Life Learning Week 1. During this presentation you may see these icons. If you want to, you can pause the recording and have some thinking time. If you want to really challenge yourself, you could try and draw a picture or write all your answers down. So our focus this week is measurement, and our learning objective is to recognise, choose and compare objects and units of measurement. There are 3 key questions we're going to answer this week. 1. What can we use to measure things? 2. What units of measurement can we use? And 3. How exactly do we measure liquids? Measurement Part 1. Okay, so now that you know what our focus is for this week, have a look at the slide in front of you. How many of these things do you recognise? Have you used them before, or have you seen other people using them? Maybe you've seen them in the home, at school, or even in the shops. If you're not sure about any, why don't you ask somebody in your household to help? If you feel like challenging yourself, you could even try and write down the names on a piece of paper. Don't forget, if you need more time to pause the PowerPoint, you can always press escape. Good effort, everybody. Okay, let's see how many you got. So, number 1 was a thermometer, which we use to measure temperature. Number 2, you probably all recognise this, it's a clock that we use to measure time. Number 3, those are weighing scales. You might see these at home or in school or even in the shops. Number 4, even more scales. These are used to measure heavier objects, such as animals or even human beings. Number 5 is a tape measure. You see these being used around the home or often on construction or building sites. Number 6 is known as a height ruler, or, if you want to impress somebody, a stadiometer. Number 7, you've probably all seen these in school. Those are regular rulers that we use to measure, often in centimetres and millimetres, but sometimes in inches. Number 8, it's quite tricky really. This is a laser measurer. These are often used by people in houses to measure the length of a room or the width. Number 9 is known by many as a measuring wheel or a trundle wheel. This measures the length or distance of something in metres. Number 10. We use these in the home or at school. This is a measuring jug, or a smaller one is called a measuring cup. So, who got the challenge question right? These are satellites. They're used to measure very large distances, such as the distance from one country to another. Have you marked your answers? How many did you get? Well done. That's fantastic. Wow, you've heard so many new words already. It's important that we have a literacy link now. So, some of the key words we've already mentioned are lengths, heights, distances. We can measure these using ruler, tape measure, trundle wheel, laser, or even satellite. We've mentioned weights and often measure these using scales or balances. We saw a measuring jug in our task. This measures capacities or usually liquids. We'll talk about that later. Literacy is really important and we must always try and remember new key words and even copy them down so we get used to writing them. To support your learning, here are some additional activities and challenges that you can try at home or in school. Firstly, why not have a look and see how many measuring instruments you can find in your home or in your classroom? Can you remember what these are called and what we use them to measure? Or why not do some research on the internet? See if you can find some measuring instruments that are used by people in their workplaces or in their jobs. For example, construction workers, scientists, interior designers, architects, or even doctors and nurses. Can you find some instruments or objects of measuring that we haven't mentioned already? Find out what they're used for. Happy researching! So that brings us to the end of part 1 of our weekly presentation. If you wish to continue, please move to the next slide for part 2. Measurement, part 2. In part 2, we're going to look at what units of measurements we can use. How many different units can you think of that you've heard before? Can you write these down? So, how many units did you remember? Did you remember these units for length, height or distance? Millimetres, centimetres, metres and kilometres, or for short, mm, cm, m or km. Have a look at the little bug at the top of the picture. How long is that bug? Each of those little lines on the ruler are millimetres. That's right, the bug is only 5 millimetres in length. That's very small, that's half a centimetre. Have a look at the carrot. The carrot is against a ruler just like the ones that we use in school. How long is this carrot? Well done, it's 9 centimetres. If you have a look on the ruler, you can see the number 9 and the units on the ruler say cm or centimetres. We use metres when we want to measure something that's a little bit bigger. If you look at the aeroplane, we can measure the length of the aeroplane in metres, or in this photo we can see that the wingspan of the aeroplane is also measured in metres. If we are measuring a very, very long distance, we use kilometres or km. So if we're measuring from one town to another or one country to another, we will use kilometres. Sometimes we measure our height in centimetres or metres. So I am 168 centimetres or 1.68 metres. Do you know what your height is? Ask a parent or carer to measure your height. Let's see what you can remember. Have a think, and if you want to, write your answer down. Which is the shortest or longest of these units? Put them into order, starting with the shortest first. 1 kilometre, 1 centimetre, 1 millimetre and 1 metre. If you want to challenge yourself, can you name some things that we would measure using these units? Don't forget, if you want some help, you can go back to the previous slide. Good luck. The weight or mass of an object tells us how heavy or light it is. Which one of these three do you think is the lightest? Grams, G, kilograms, kg, or tons, T? Yes, that's right. The tonne is the heaviest. Have a look at the pairs on the weighing scales. What do those pairs weigh? That's right, they weigh 400 grams. Each pair would be 200 grams if they were equal. Grams are used to measure smaller objects, such as a small item of food, or a little package, such as a booklet in an envelope. What do you think that dog weighs on the weighing scales? The average dog of that size weighs between 25 and 30 kilograms. Kilograms are used to measure something larger. We often use kilograms to weigh food as well when there's more than one or two objects. Have a look at the elephant. Elephants are often weighed in tonnes. A very large elephant can weigh anything up to 6,000 kilograms, which is 6 tonnes. A baby elephant is often around a tonne when it is born. Scientists often use milligrams to weigh very, very tiny objects. For example, a grain of sand actually weighs less than 1 milligram. You may have heard the older, more mature people, like myself, using weights such as pounds, stones, and ounces. They're called imperial weights, but we don't have to worry about those at the moment. We're just going to focus on the metric weights, grams, kilograms, and tonnes. We have already used the words heavy and light to describe the weight of an object. How would you describe these 5 objects? An elephant. Yes, well done. Most people would say an elephant is heavy. A feather. We would describe a feather as very light. A car. That's a real car, not a toy car. A real car would be described as heavy. Number 4, the dragonfly. Yes, I agree. We would describe a dragonfly as light. What about the front door key? We can keep these in our pockets, so definitely light. Your next challenge is to choose the appropriate unit for each of these pictures. You can choose from grams, kilograms, or tonnes. Good luck, off you go. How did you do? Did you manage to think of them all? The first one, the little kitten, that would be measured in kilograms. Number 2, the apple, would be measured in grams. Number 3, because it's a very small mouse, it probably would be measured in grams, although it could be over 1,000 grams, which would make it a kilogram. Number 4, the bus. Oh, definitely tons. Very, very heavy. Number 5, the cupcakes, usually measured in grams. Number 6, some humans. We often weigh ourselves using kilograms. Number 7, sugar. Sugar is weighed in grams. If you have a very large amount of sugar, over 1,000 grams, you would use kilograms. And the rhino, just like the elephant, a very, very heavy animal. That would be weighed in tons. Have you marked them? How many did you get? Great effort, everybody. Well done. Time for a literacy link. Remember, our keywords are really important and we must try and remember them, even learn to write them and spell them. So, we've looked at length, how long something is. We've mentioned distance, how far something is. And we've talked about height, that's how tall something is. To measure length, distance and height, we use millimetres or m, centimetres cm, metres m, and kilometres km. We also talked about weight, or more accurately, mass, how heavy something is. We spoke about grams, g, kilograms, kg, and tonnes, t. Remember, tonnes is the heaviest. Here are some ideas for additional activities and challenges. Why not have a look through your kitchen cupboards at home? Don't forget to ask an adult first though, please. What can you see on the packages? Can you see grams or kilograms? Choose some of these and try and put them in order of mass from lightest to heaviest. You could even do some research on the internet and look at different weights for animals. It will give you the average weight for an adult animal. Put them in order. Do any of these surprise you? That brings us to the end of part 2. If you would like to move on to part 3, go on to the next slide. Measurement, part 3. So that brings us on to our third and final question. How do we measure liquids? Well, there are some units that we haven't yet mentioned in this presentation. Those are millilitres and litres. Have a look at the pictures in this slide. Which of these objects do you recognise? Which have you used, or which have you seen other people use? If you want to challenge yourself, see if you can write down the name of these objects. What do you notice about them all? How many did you recognise? Number 1, you should have seen before in school or at home. This is a measuring jug. You can just about see on the scale the words litre and ml for millilitre. Number 2 is a watering can. People often use these to water the plants or the garden. Number 3, I should hope that you've all seen one of these. This is a bath. Number 4, a kettle. Number 5, you may not have seen one of these. This is a petrol can. Number 6, a very large water bottle. And number 7 is a mop bucket. Number 8, one of my favourite things, is a swimming pool. Add up your score. How many did you get? Oh, super effort, well done. What do all these things have in common? That's correct. They can all hold liquids. Capacity or volume is just the maximum amount that something can contain. In other words, it's just a fancy way of saying how much fits inside this. We often use litres or millilitres to describe capacity, as because it's very often liquids that we're measuring. If you look at the picture in the bottom corner, you can see some of the ways that we measure capacity. You may have seen the measuring cylinder in school. Or we can talk about the capacity of a can of drink, a baby's bottle, a carton of milk, or even washing up liquid. We usually use millilitres and litres, and 1,000 millilitres is 1 litre. We often use the words full, empty, and half full to describe how much is in an object. The fruit bowls in this picture, the egg baskets, and the glasses at the top of the page show full and empty. Have a look at the picture at the bottom of the screen. Would you describe it as half full or half empty? That's right, we describe it as half full. This slide may help you understand litres and millilitres a little bit better. The large bottle of Pepsi contains 1 litre or 1,000 millilitres. The smaller bottle of water is 500 millilitres. That is half a litre. Some containers contain a lot more. The large one you see on the screen is 2.5 litres. Aftershaves and perfumes are often described in millilitres because they are smaller. So this aftershave contains 100 millilitres. How many millilitres do you think a teaspoon and a tablespoon hold? That's right, the smaller one, the teaspoon, holds 5 millilitres. And the larger spoon, the tablespoon, holds 25 millilitres. At the top of your screen are 4 measurements. Can you match up these measurements to the correct picture? Give yourself some thinking time and try and write down the answers. Either pause the PowerPoint or press Escape to pause. Here are your answers. The Diet Coke bottle holds 2 litres, it's a very large one. The water bottle holds 500 millilitres and the tablespoon holds 25 millilitres. That leaves us with 100 litres, which is probably what you would need to fill that paddling pool. Did you get all 4 answers? Well done. It's time for a literacy link. Keywords are so important and we must try to learn them, even try to write and spell them. So, 2 new very, very tricky words we've learnt today are capacity and volume. These just mean how much can an object hold. We describe an object as being full, empty and half full. We measure liquid inside an object using litres and millilitres. We need to try and remember that 1,000 millilitres is 1 litre. Here are some additional activities or challenges that you could try. Why not have a look in your kitchen cupboards? Ask an adult first, of course. Can you find anything which shows litres or millilitres on the packaging? Why not try and put these containers in order of size, starting with the smallest? You could even try and find an empty container and using a tablespoon of 25 millilitres, see how many you need to fill it. You could ask an adult to help you and you could try and pour the water into an old 1 litre bottle. I wonder how many tablespoons you'd need to make it. Good luck, have fun. Here is your final challenge of the week. Which units would you use to measure the following things? The height of a bus, the water in a swimming pool, the length of a motorway, the weight of a bag of crisps, the distance from Paris to London, and the wingspan of a butterfly. Remember, you can pause or press Escape to give you time to think and write down your answers. How did you do? Quite tricky, wasn't it? So, the height of a bus would usually be measured in metres. You would measure the water in a swimming pool using litres. The length of a motorway is often described in kilometres. The weight of a bag of crisps is usually grams. And of course, the distance from Paris to London is very far, so that would be kilometres. The wingspan of a butterfly is fairly small, so we would use centimetres. Did you get 6 out of 6? Don't worry if you didn't, as long as you tried your best. Well, that brings us to the end of our lessons for this week. I hope you've enjoyed the learning, and remember, you can always do more research using the internet. I look forward to working with you again next week on a new topic. Take care and stay safe. Don't forget, remember to use the internet, My Maths, Prodigy, Top Marks, and even Bite Size to help practice your math skills. If your parents or carers have any queries, please ask them to email me at emily.murphy@redwood-school.com. Stay safe.